Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, more from some of the ag organization meetings that are being held this month. We were at the Kansas Farmers Union meeting and caught up with their president, Donn Teske. We'll also sit down with seasoned Solorio from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and talk about a pretty cool app called Chuck Knows Beef. We'll also have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission and Kansas Department of Agriculture, plus our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon AG Advisors. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919, kfb.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. In agriculture news, the Washington Post editorial board has called the 2018 Farm Bill a bad outcome that could have been much worse. The editorial board says the Farm Bill simply maintains the existing set of subsidy programs, bloated and wasteful as they often are. Well, the bill largely continues much of the 2014 Farm Bill, which expired at the end of September. It does make a few changes, notably to the dairy programs. The biggest complaint by the Washington Post focuses on the so-called loophole that allows extended relatives of a family farm to receive some safety net benefits. And that's a measure that Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley has long opposed and said that could jeopardize his support of the bill. Well, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said the U.S. and China must reach a trade agreement by March. Lighthizer says March 1st is a hard deadline for a long-term deal to be reached between the two nations. He says the administration wants additional market access for U.S. producers and structural changes by China to protect American technology. If an agreement, though, cannot be reached, more tariffs are expected, according to Lighthizer. Now, currently, while tariffs remain in place, the two nations agreed to cease fire, if you will, that will stop any future tariff announcements if the two nations can stay engaged in trade talks. U.S. agriculture eager for China to remove the tariffs on U.S. farm products and awaiting the Trump-announced China purchases of agriculture commodities as part of that recent G20 talk between China and the U.S. And schools across the country now have an additional option in serving students meals that are both healthy and appealing. USDA issued a final rule on those school lunches. USDA release says the rules increase local flexibility in implementing school nutrition standards for milk, whole grains, and sodium. Secretary Perdue said the final rule will deliver forward-thinking strategies that ensure that school nutrition standards are both healthy and practical. The new rule lets schools provide low-fat flavored milk to children in school lunch programs. It also requires that half of the weekly grains in school food programs be the whole grain rich. It also gives schools more time to reduce their sodium levels in those school meals. Well, if you have an Alexa or utilize apps on your phone or tablet, we'll learn more about Chuck Knows Beef from the NCBA a little later in the show. You're watching the Kansas Ag Report. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web, oldeseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. More at ksgrainsorghum.org. The state's oldest farm organization, the Kansas Farmers Union, meeting outside of Topeka near Mayetta. And joining us now is Donn Teske, who is the state president of the Kansas Farmers Union. Donn, you've got a group here, not only probably talking policy, but looking back, but also looking forward.
Yeah, this convention is focusing a lot on forward, and the title of the convention is Rural Resilience, and the young leaders in our organization planned this conference, and they did a really good job. We've had a day of strategizing about how we can grow and save and help our rural communities prosper, and that goes beyond agriculture. That goes to the rural local communities. And so, what can we do as a society to help them prosper and create that volunteerism and that unity that we were raised with?
Sure. Well, we've got that, and you'll move forward. And speaking of moving forward, statewide, Kansas will have a new governor in January. That means maybe a new way of thinking on some policy things, and maybe talk about your reactions. Haven't talked to you since the election.
Yeah, it was an interesting election, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Senator Kelly for many, many years, and has always respected her intelligence and leadership, and there were other candidates that would have been great governors too, but she'll fit that role perfectly, and I have complete faith in her and loyalty to her, and so I think that we have a chance to do some progressive things here in regards to appropriate school funding and expanding Medicaid, and several things that are in our policy that we've been asking for some time.
Are there going to be some things coming up in the policy discussions, just maybe more reiterations, or some new things maybe looking at for this next year?
Oh, this has been a pretty funky one so far. We've even got a proposed policy addition that would support medical marijuana. So I go, hey, that's cool. There was discussion about supporting happy weed, and I think actually the medical marijuana will pass in the policy. I think it's got pretty good acceptance, and so yeah, and more on healthcare and more on rural communities.
One of the things that you've advocated for, Donn, is a strong safety net. We understand this is going to be one of those years again. Farm families are hurting, income is down, and with some of the other situations, we're still a ways off from bringing that back.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it that we're in the middle of a farm crisis, even though they won't call it that. And it's good to see some appropriate funding being presented in the Senate version of the Farm Bill that would put permanent and appropriate funding toward the ag mediation programs and some of the mental health support networks that need to be out there.
Okay. All right, Donn. Well, again, we appreciate your time, and thanks, and have a good rest of the convention.
Thank you.
Donn Teske from Wheaton. He's the president of the Kansas Farmers Union. We'll have more coming up on the Kansas Ag Report.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. And AgView.net, covering news and views in the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt. Reliable and relevant, AgView.net. Joined now by Seasoned Solorio, and we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of people have great interest in. By the way, Seasons with NCBA, and artificial intelligence is kind of taking over in our homes. And what a great outreach for consumers to use some of those tools. So you are one of those helping lead the effort for Chuck Nose Beef. Tell us.
Yeah, no, we are very excited. So part of the work that NCBA does as a contractor to the Beef Checkoff program is to continue to look for ways that we can bring all of the great information from Beef It's What's for Dinner and beefitswhatsfordinner.com into the homes or hands of more Americans. A key opportunity we've identified is the emergence of artificial intelligence and particularly smart speakers. So things like the Amazon Alexa or the popular Google Home devices that people, including myself, have in their kitchens and in their homes, and that they can ask questions to get cooking information from. We've developed a skill, is what it's called Chuck Nose Beef, that has the ability to be pulled from an Amazon, and coming soon it will be available also on Google Homes, not quite yet, and that will pull actually information from beefitswhatsfordinner.com and help consumers prepare, for example, their favorite beef recipe, but it can also answer questions about whether or not beef is heart healthy, for example, or how sustainable is beef, or how do we use antibiotics in beef. So it can all answer a multitude of questions we know consumers might ask because they're hearing about those different things, and we want to make sure that we're meeting their different needs and pain points.
So how does it work?
Yeah.
I assume if you have an Alexa or maybe got one over the holiday break, it's, did you say, Alexa, Chuck Nose Beef, or give me Chuck Nose Beef? Tell us how that works.
So if you have an Amazon Alexa and you got it for the holidays, then all you would actually do is go to the Amazon Alexa app. There's a section and a drop down in the hamburger bar, they call it. So those little lines, and it will say skills. You click on skills and then you search simply for Chuck Nose Beef. So it will then pull up the skill for Chuck Nose Beef. If people don't, though, have an Amazon device and they just want to access it on their smartphone, or their desktop, they can just go to chucknosebeef.com and they'll have the same exact experience. It won't talk to them. Instead, it'll appear in a text format. So.
In fact, I did the little talked into it, did the voice search, and it came right up.
Great.
So I was able to get it. Now,
Perfect.
recipes and just all those things. Now, I understand before it really makes that hard launch, you've been encouraging folks to engage, and so to help fill up the knowledge base, if you will, if that's the right term.
Yep, absolutely. So right now we're saying that Chuck was only launched about a month ago. So he's still a baby. He's still learning. And part of honestly what we need from our beef community and our producers is to help Chuck get smarter. So the more people that ask Chuck questions, the smarter he gets, because he's realizing how people may ask a question differently. So for example, I may say, give me a recipe for flank steak. You may say, can you give me a recipe for flank steak? We want to make sure that he can respond to any of those small variances that we just have naturally as people and as language changes, right? So that'll help Chuck get smarter for full launch in February. You know, we're starting to jokingly say by February, Chuck will definitely be at least a teenager, so obviously he'll know everything at that point, and we think that that's a great opportunity then for the world to really meet him.
Okay, Season again. Now, give folks, if they have the Alexa or other things, how can they get that, or the website, so on?
Yep. So if you have an Amazon Alexa, all you have to do is go to the skills section of your Amazon Alexa, type in Chuck Knows Beef, and it should lead you to that skill to download on your Amazon Alexa smart speaker. Okay. If you have just a smartphone or a desktop, simply go to chuckknowsbeef.com and you can access him right there.
Susan, great to see you and appreciate this. This sounds exciting.
We're really excited about it, so thanks. I appreciate the opportunity.
Susan Solorio, who is the Director of Brand Marketing for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, has joined us here on the Kansas Ag Report.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Kansas Soybean Expo 2019 will be January 9 in Topeka. The Kansas Soybean Association organizes the annual event with checkoff funding from the Kansas Soybean Commission to coincide with the Topeka Farm Show. Thanks to the checkoff, there will be no registration fees again this year. Space is limited, however, so only those who pre-register by January 2 will have guaranteed seats at the luncheon and be eligible for the early bird prize drawing. The event is at the Maynard Conference Center. Registration and exhibits open at 8:30 a.m. The program will be from 9 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. A reception with association and commission leaders will follow. The opening session will offer checkoff partner updates from the Oklahoma Department of Transportation Waterways Program and the North Central Soybean Research Program. Then Bob Farmer and the Farmer's Almanac will address the crowd. Representative Lynn Jenkins has been invited to speak at lunch. Following some awards and recognitions, including the 2019 Young Leaders, the association will conduct its annual meeting. Afterward, the Kansas Soybean Yield and Value Contest winners will be announced. Then participants will hear from K-State experts about soybean breeding, dicamba, and soybean prices. Find the full agenda and pre-registration form at kansassoybeans.org/expo on the web or call 877-KS-SOYBEAN.
Water right owners in Kansas soon will receive their annual water use reports in the mail, requiring them to submit a complete and accurate water use report to the Division of Water Resources. This year's mailing will look different because starting with the 2018 water use reporting period, they will see a $20 per water right paper filing fee on each water use report when that water report is submitted in paper form. This $20 fee can be avoided by reporting water use online, which we strongly recommend. Online water use reporting has been available for 5 years now, and many water right owners have already taken advantage of that option. Online reporting allows you to enter official annual water use reports online and receive immediate feedback to help ensure an accurate report. Instead of implementing online convenience fees, charging you to use the online system, KDA has taken a different approach and instead will charge a paper filing fee for water use reports that are submitted with paper forms. Complete your online water use report by March 1st. If you need help completing a report, visit or call any of the KDA DWR field offices or watch the online video tutorials available on our website. You can find contact information to the field offices, a link to the tutorial videos, and a link to the online portal to file your reports at agriculture.ks.gov/water-use or call the water use team at 785-564-6638. If you choose not to take advantage of the online water use report option, you can still send in your report by mail along with the paper filing fee. Water use data is essential for management of the state's resources. We thank you for your good stewardship of this resource and look forward to receiving your annual water use report.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Wabunsee County rancher Barb Downey of Wamego moved up to Kansas Livestock Association president during the annual business meeting in Wichita. Members chose Harry Mosier, a cow-calf producer from Wheaton, as the new KLA president-elect. Downey represents the fourth generation of her family in the ranching business. She and her late father, Joe Downey, started Downey Ranch in 1986. Downey and her husband, Joe Carpenter, operate the ranch, which consists of a registered Angus and commercial Angus-based cow herd. The cattle are marketed as seed stock or finished and sold through U.S. Premium Beef. Downey Ranch was named Beef Improvement Federation Commercial Producer of the Year in 2010. Downey is a past chair of the Kansas Beef Council and currently is vice president of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association Region 7 Federation Division. She is a past president of the Kansas Angus Association. Mosier, his wife Lisa, and his family own a seed stock and commercial cow-calf enterprise in Marshall and Pottawatomie counties. Seed stock is merchandised by private treaty, with steers finished on the ranch and sold through a niche market. Mosier Ranch won the BIF Seed Stock Producer of the Year award in 2003. Mosier is a past chairman of both the KLA Stock Growers Council and KLA Membership Committee. He has represented KLA on the NCBA Board of Directors. He is a past chairman of the board of the American Simmental Association. Mosier also has served as president of the Kansas Simmental Association.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Good morning, I'm Darren Van Vactor with Paragon AG. The December report came and went pretty quietly, offering few changes and little impact on the markets. However, the markets have drifted higher regarding corn, beans, and wheat as of late. Let's take a look. Easing U.S.-China trade tensions has helped, as the bean market has been pushing higher ever since the G20 summit in early December. The White House continues to display an optimistic outlook regarding trade talk, which has in turn bolstered the ag markets. As such, the government has delayed the announcement for the second wave of the farmers' aid payment until month's end. As for wheat, we've seen some recent export business bumping it out of the downward channel. As we work into the cold winter months, we may see debate surrounding winter kill on reduced or late planted acres. Looking for an opportunity to hedge some new crop risk on such a move would be prudent. Corn has continued to hold its own, pushing 30 cents off its early harvest lows. Demand has been good as we have dug into supplies, and basis has improved post-harvest in most areas. March, the front month contract, is sitting in striking distance of the $4 mark, making it hard to argue with getting something done at these levels. There are ways to lay off future risk without making a physical commitment or retain ownership of previously sold grain. If you have questions, we'd be happy to help. Give us a call here at Paragon Ag Advisors, 888-452-8751. I'm Darren Van Vactor. Be safe and have a great week.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. agview.net. Well, that'll put a wrap on this week's show. Be sure to be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or on Facebook and Twitter. The show is also in podcast form on castbox.fm. Search Kansas Ag Report and subscribe. Well, next week we'll continue our coverage from organizational meetings around the state. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching the Kansas Ag Report. We'll see you next week.